Hi, in this video I'll show you how to compare two different variables. For example, if you are measuring the millennials' open-mindedness level and you want to see how this is affecting the brand fit impact on the purchase intention, meaning you go into the data set that you have and you create, after you imputed the data set, and I talked about data imputation somewhere in other videos, but just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, let me just a little bit go here. So this is, for example, our business model, and we go to analyze. These variables are measured. That brand fit is measured through these questions, but brand fit, we don't have a score for it. And likewise for all other factors, either first or second order factors. So the way to get scores for them is to go to analyze and data imputation. With the data imputation, what's going to happen is you are going to get a complete data file with all the variables imputed through the SPSS, and the name of the data file will be the data SEM. For example, this is the original data, and this is considered incomplete because it doesn't have these scores, and they are going to save it automatically for you in the same folder under this name. If you want to change these settings, you can basically change the folder over here and change the name by adding another C or adding complete or changing the whole name altogether. I already imputed this data and it is available here. So you can see that now for expertise, for example, I have kind of continuous data. It's no longer ordinal, more of a continuous data scores. I also have, we also in this, my student also has measured different characteristics of millennials, European millennials, but it could apply also on other millennials probably. But for now, where are they? Here. So self-expression, for example, or selectivity here, was measured in a scale from 1 to 7. We considering anything above 4, meaning 5, 6, and 7, to be considered scoring high on selectivity, and anything other than 5, 6, and 7 is considered to be low. Now, for selectivity, we also created another variable here that is as a dummy in dictonymous form, which is 1 and 0. So whenever the score is 6, it is given 1. It's coded as 1. Whenever it is below 5, when it's greater than or equal to 5, it is given 1. When it's less than 5, it is given 0, and so forth. So we coded the data this way, and now we are going to use these coded binary variables to create kind of two groups: high on a selectivity, low on selectivity, high on deal driven, low on deal driven, and see how these groups are affecting these relationships. In particular, we are concerned with the relationships that pouring into or inbound to purchase intention, and they are connected to the main research questions. Again, the main research question here is brand fit affecting purchase intention. Brand fit is affecting the credibility of the social influencer through content value and source influence. And this kind of model, we got this hypotheses one to be supported, these hypotheses also to be supported. And then the second research question, unfortunately here, is these on purchase intention. And we couldn't get this to be studied or to be supported in this model. However, as I showed in previous videos, we got them to be showing here in a separate model with the absence of brand fit and parasocial relationship. And we got a significant loading here on source influence, but none on content value. We even went so far to investigate content value here. We went so far to investigating the the relationships here, to investigating the relationships as separate variables, I think here. So all the variables were not in second order on purchase intention. We couldn't get anything interesting. We even deleted some of the variables here. This is not the set of all the variables, so we deleted some of the variables where giving negative or insignificant loading. We still couldn't get all significant loadings here until we went back into doing this. Then with this model we got significant loading when we have all these consolidated in a second order factor, but still we couldn't get a significant loading here for information value. So basically this is very interesting to see that still without or with the absence of brand fit and parasocial, source influence was highly influential on purchase intention than the content, because the content here is affecting the source influence through the information value on expertise and trustworthiness. So this is solidating this kind of story, that information value or content value is affecting the source influence in our context. In any case, we went back to here. Let's go back to here. So this kind of question, we couldn't get it to be supported. We couldn't answer this question through this model, but we answered it through different iterations of other model separately. Then the questions pertaining the parasocial. So initially we wanted parasocial to be mediating effect, but now we're just asking if parasocial has any effect on purchase intention and its role. It's the parasocial role on the in the relationship of the credibility here of an influential and the purchase intention. Unfortunately, we couldn't get this relationship done, but we can get this done. So the story is as follows. Brand fit affecting purchase intention, brand fit affecting the credibility of an influencer through its content value and source influence, and then source influence of the influencer is affecting parasocial, and thus through this is affecting the purchase intention. All right, having this done, we did the imputation. So we did analyze and we did the imputation, and this is how we got these scores up here. And now we are going to draw the same relationship if you want to make it in a very nicer way, in fact. So here's the brand fit is affecting the content value, brand fit is affecting purchase intention and source influence. Then these also here, the relationships nicely done in this diagram. First thing to do to investigate if you have the different groups of high and low scoring on different characteristics of the millennials is over here to create a new groups. Originally you have group 1, then you need to rename it into high and then add a new group. When you add a new group, you can name here at the very beginning you had group number 1, so you renamed it to high and then create a new other one and name it to low and then close it, and that will be it. So once you close it, that's it. So you created 2 groups. Now, when this is highlighted as high, you are gonna investigate 2 relationships, right? The brand fit over purchase intention and then the parasocial over purchase intention. For the first relationship, which is the brand fit over purchase intention, let's investigate this together and you can do the rest on your own. So what you're gonna do is basically, this is originally wasn't like this. This was just a line like this, right? So you're going to select this line. This is high. You're going to set a constraint as H, and you are not going to set it for all groups. You're going to set it only for this group and have it corresponding to H. Now, if you select the low group, there's nothing here. So you can also make sure this is unchecked and constrain it to L, corresponding to low. So this is the second step. Now, the third step is to create different models now. So the first model here is model, call it model A, and then create a new model and call it model B. We already had model A, so that's fine. So right now we have 2 models. For model A, I want you to add a constraint that the high group is equal to the low group. So this means there's no effect. The B model has no constraints, so keep it as is, meaning that there is a difference. Now, the last step is to go over here and make sure the data sets here is red. So make sure that the file name is selected correctly for both of them. So I have this file name. And then over here, make sure that the grouping variable is also consistent. I would like to have a grouping variable called open-mindedness. So I'm going to take open-mindedness here. And I'm going to do the same over here, as you can see. So the variable here is open-mindedness. And over here also I want it to be open-mindedness. So it is right there. So now the value is missing. So I'm going to go to the group value. This is high, corresponding to 1. And this is low. It should be corresponding to 0. And now we're going to hit OK. Now this is done. We're going to run the model. And we're going to take a look first and foremost at the model comparison. The p-value. Over here, the p-value is less than 0.6. So 0.6 here is the threshold. If the value is greater than 0.6, if it's greater than 0.6, there is no significant difference between the different groups. And this is unfortunate in our case. But if the value is less than 0.6, there is a significant difference, right? So in our case here, we have 360. So for open-mindedness, the p-value here, so I'm going to put here the p-value. I have different characteristics here that I put together. And this is, I don't know why this is red. It's not supposed to be red. So I have different characteristics here put together. And this is the low group reading, and this is the high group standardized weights. And then here I'm going to put the p-value. And this is the relationship that I'm investigating right now, the brand fit on purchase intention. So as you can see over here, I already got through most of the relationships. Okay, so now this is the last relationship here, 0.360, and it is below 0.6, so there is a significant difference. And now I'm gonna have to type in here the standardized values for the low group and the high group on the purchase, on the brand fit over the purchase, or on the purchase. First thing, remember that we are not gonna keep, first of all, let's go here, estimates, scales, scalars, and standardized regressions. As you can see here, all these are significant for the high, and all of them are significant. We don't care about all of them, in fact, I just care about the brand fit over the purchase intention. Even if it's not significant here for the per social, it is all right. I care here about the brand fit over the purchase intention here, where I put the hitch. So this is significant. And over here for the high, also it is significant. All right, so now what I need to do is go to the standardized weights, because this is what I care about. And I'm gonna also make sure that I am on the B model, because the B model has no restrictions. There are different readings, if you can see. So we need the B model. B model has no constraints or restrictions. Exactly, if you don't have these two models originally, before you had these two models, you didn't even touch these and there was no constraints on the model, right? So this is the state that you would like to get your readings from. And then you go to the standardized and you go for low, for example, and read the brand fit on purchase intention being 0.047, 0.047. And then for the high, you are going to go and read the 0.37. Sorry, on brand fit. Did I read the brand fit? Yeah, here's the brand fit on purchase. And here the brand fit on purchase is 0.215. So I'm going to put here 0.215. And now this is, I'll do the same with, forget about the other half now. I'll do the same with all these characteristics, as you can see. So I'm going to close this, and basically I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to change the grouping. Instead of open-mindedness, I'm gonna do it whatever I want it to be. For example, recommendation. All right. And then over here, I'm gonna put it as recommendation, for example. Okay. And then for the group value, make sure high is 1, and for the low, it is in fact 0. And then run it. And once it is done, I'm gonna take the model comparison here is 0.269. So for recommendation, it is 0.269. And then I'm gonna go to the estimates, the scalars, the standardized, and then I'm gonna go to the B model, which has no constraints, and I'm gonna go to low, which is the brand fit over purchase intention 316. So it is 316 for the low, and for the high it is 113, and I'm gonna key in 113 and continue to do that. Make sure, and be careful please, and make sure that you are taking the readings on the B model that has no constraints. Now that we have all this done, let's take a look and interpret our results with the p-value. Always take the p-value. So all these p-values here, this is below 0.6, this is below 0.6, this is below 0.6. Unfortunately, this relationship is greater than 0.6, and this means that there is no significant difference. So it means that the brand fit on purchase intention for open-mindedness, not open-mindedness, this one, control as a characteristic, the likeness or the favorness of the control on the millennials has this characteristics has no significant impact. If you are high control or low control freak, it has no influence on your perception of the brand fit and its impact on purchase intention. But the others does have a significant difference. And this significant difference could be read as follows. Over here, for those who are high, scoring high on self-expression, the effect is higher of brand fit on purchase intention. For those who are also scoring high on selectivity and even deal driven, also the impact of brand fit on purchase intention is higher than that because the standardized weight regressions are higher. Also, when we come here to the same applies for open-mindedness. However, when we come to recommendation, we'll find out that the love for recommendation, when it's very high, however, the brand fit is not that influential. It doesn't matter really much. Because if you are high on accepting recommendations and a friend recommended an influencer video that talking about selling a certain car, but she's into beauty, so what's the brand fit here? There's no brand fit. You are all about beauty. Your channel is all about beauty, but all of a sudden you have a video on a car, on selling a car. However, if this video maybe was passed on to you because you wanted to buy a car and passed on to you through another friend, probably actually it's the other way around. If you are recommendation driven, this means that you taking the advice of your influencer. Sorry, I misinterpreted. So if you are very high, but if you are very high on recommendation, how come the brand fit means less? So this is quite interesting to explain. So if you are very high on recommendation, seems like the effect of the brand fit on purchase is not really a big deal, seems to be. So only those who are low on recommendation, they will be annoyed by the fact that the influencer in fact is going out of her way and making a video on cars rather than on beauty. So this is also interesting. I think now we can understand it. So if you are high on recommendation, doesn't really matter the brand fit as much to you. So this is quite interesting. So those who were complaining about the mix-up in the image of an influencer who recommended a car while she's into beauty. What do you know about beauty and all that? We probably maybe can infer that most of them who were highly annoyed were scoring high on recommend. Maybe we're just saying maybe we're highly scoring on a recommendation driven as a millennial. They were millennials. So that is quite interesting. I also generated the results for the other relationship, which is the parasocial over to on purchase. So basically I deleted this over here, and or you can just, if you don't want to delete it, you can just take this, move it. Okay. All right, so now we have this relationship. Oh God, why am I complicating things here? I'm just concerned about this. So over here, you are going to replicate this, but put it in on this relationship because you're studying this relationship, parasocial over purchase intention. So you are going to generate the results for this similarly. So this is what we found, and let me just make it nice and clean. So over here, this is significant difference. All right, so basically here for this kind of characteristics, let me just add these over here. Okay, and now let's start to look into the relationships here. So first, this is less than 0.6, less than 0.6. This is unfortunately greater than 0.6. There's no significant difference. Not unfortunately, it's part of the findings. So it seems like data-driven and controlled, there is no difference in the, it doesn't make any effect, it doesn't influence the parasocial relationship on purchase, the deal-driven and the control. However, recommendation and others are, there is significant difference between the groups. Now, let's take a look at the interpretation. High on self-expression, as you can see here, the parasocial relationships really affects their purchase intention. But if you are high on selectivity, then the parasocial relationship on its impact on purchase intention is not as high compared to the low. So if you are low on selectivity, so you are not very selective and all that, then the relationship with the influencer does really matter. But if you are high on selectivity, that you don't follow anybody and all that, seems like this is lower affecting it. I'm gonna look into this also and verify the. Let's do that right now. The selectivity. Let's do it right now. So this is here. Let's put it together. I'm just doubting the results here. So here I'm gonna put selectivity, and similarly over here I'm gonna put selectivity, and the groups here, this is 1 and this is 0, right? And let's run this model and take a look at the results. First we start with the comparison. 0.566, is that correct? Yeah, it seems like I got it right. So, but let's just make sure that we don't make any mistakes. Maybe I made a mistake getting the values here. Everything is okay. Yeah, for high, for low. Yeah. Okay, so now we are on model B. We are on standardized regressions, and the low is for parasocial is 427. That's correct, 427. And for the high, it is 323. It's 323. So I got it right. So we need to look into what does that mean and why is it like that. So it's just interesting. We don't have we just have, as a master student, it's good to just report the results. It's all right. It's good enough. So here, high on selectivity, the impact of parasocial on purchase intention is lower than those who are low. And the same applies here for open-mindedness. And yeah, so these two are quite interesting. I'm going to put them in a different color, maybe blue. And this one also in blue. As you can see here, high selectivity, high open-mindedness, you can see that the parasocial relationships doesn't really matter as much compared to the low on these two characteristics. So when you are high on selectivity and high on open-mindedness, the parasocial impact on purchase intention is lower compared to that that is low on these measures. However, recommendation, when you are high on recommendation, this relationship is the impact of parasocial on purchase intention is higher. So that is really the other research question. So the other main research question is how these different characteristics are affecting the relationships on the purchase intention. So we can find out that here, that this relationship here affecting both, the higher the impact. Yes. On selectivity, though, it's not. It is the other way around here. So I'm going to put it just in blue also. With selectivity, it's also similarly. With selectivity, basically, when it is you are high on selectivity, this means that the brand fit and the parasocial relationships impact isn't as high compared to those who are low on selectivity. Deal driven, there is no difference on parasocial on purchase, but it is also showing that the higher the deal driven, the higher the brand fit impact on the purchase intention. Control seems to be there is no significant difference between the groups and their purchase intention. The open-mindedness here is the higher the open-mindedness, the lower the parasocial impact on the purchase, but the higher the open-mindedness, the higher the impact of brand fit on the purchase. Recommendation follows the same trend. The higher it is, the higher the impact of parasocial and the brand fit. Oh no, wait a minute. Nuh-uh. Here, the higher the recommendation, the lower the effect of the brand fit compared to the low recommendation driven. And the other way around for the parasocial. The higher the recommendation here, the higher the parasocial on the purchase intention. So this really does matter a lot because this is the main core concept of the whole influencer kind of mentality. Why do you influence me? Because my parasocial relationship with you is high, so I take your recommendation into account. So this is going to be a big problem if it wasn't like this. So this is probably one of the most important among them all, really. So this is the source. But with brand fit is probably very highly related to the, I don't know, the brand fit is maybe the higher the brand fit, the higher the similarity between the brand itself and the I can't see any of these affecting this as we expected, but this is definitely expected to be this way, and we got it right. Yeah. This is, on the other hand, is quite alarming, because if you are deal driven, then the parasocial relationships can affect you. But seems like deal-driven did not show any significant difference here. However, deal-driven showed that the higher the deal, you are deal-driven, the higher it's supposed to be the brand fit. And probably this is quite interesting that over here it didn't show a significant result, but this means that parasocial is not always responsible for impacting purchase intention on millennials. It's good for recommendation. However, brand fit is necessary for deal-driven individuals. All right. We yet to understand how and why selectivity on both of these. When I am very picky on selecting who I am working with and who I am following, apparently the parasocial relationships doesn't necessarily have the higher impact from parasocial to purchase. So this is quite interesting. Like, I am very picky about the person that I'm following. I'm very selective. I don't follow anybody, I don't follow anybody. Seems like I also don't easily purchase based on the recommendation, maybe. It will be interesting here to find out who are highly selective and how many of the highly selective are also highly recommendation driven. So that would be an interesting thing to look into. So taking the data set very quickly, I'm gonna, even though I am really tired, this is the third video for today, but it is quite interesting now that I'm asking this question. So let's take a look here. All right, so I'm gonna take a look here at, not this, no, not this. I want this one, or mine, the data that says mine. Wait a minute, what was the name of the data set? This data set. All right, so this is the data set. I want to take a look at two measures. The selectivity, where are we? The selectivity and recommendation. Okay. And see, high selectivity, high recommendation, high selectivity, low recommendation, low selectivity, high recommendation, and low selectivity, low recommendation. So if and this is high, which is equal to 1, and this is also high, so this will be equal to 1, then give me 1, else give me 0. On the other hand, this is if this is equal to 1, and this is low, this is equal to 0, I'm sorry. This is equal to 0, and this is equal to 1. Okay. Where is and? And now, if and this is low, so this is equal to 0. Wait a minute, what did I do here? This is high and this is low. So this is supposed to be high, 1, and this is supposed to be low, 0. Okay, so now let's get this done, which is and this is supposed to be low, selectivity is supposed to be 0, all right? and this is supposed to be high. So this is supposed to be 1, then 1, else 0. And then over here, let's do it low, low, if and this is equal to 0, and this is equal to 0. And give me 1, else give me 0. So now we are fine. At any row, this is supposed to be 1. So I'm going to put here just a test. Sum of all this is supposed to be always, this row is supposed to be 1. For quality assurance, right? Because we have only one. It corresponds to only one value. So now this is quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that is quite interesting now. So now we have these values here. So we have 4 different groups. High on recommendation. So we have here 4 different groups, right? So we have high on selectivity and high on recommendation versus low in selectivity, low on recommendation. So basically we can take this, copy. I wonder if I can add them here. Ah, here I have a problem. Okay, okay. Copy that and put it at the very end. So now we can investigate later if there is in this group, wait a minute, this is what I was worried about. These guys over here, when you paste them anywhere, then paste them as a number. So now we can investigate if there's anything interesting here in the groups. Like this is a group, high, low. So these guys are high on selectivity and high on recommendation, but the otherwise. So could be any of these. Or this group is interesting, low on selectivity and low on recommendation. Or maybe these are more interesting. If you are high on selectivity, low on recommendation. If you are low on selectivity, high on recommendation, if this does make a sense. So this is also another interesting investigation that we can do. So if you can save this, for example, and then you can import it if you want. Because I think mine is a little bit acting weird, AMOS. So here's mine. Okay. Okay. I now save it. I'm going to save it as mine also still. I'm going to save it over it. I don't think it worked though. Oh, actually it did. Okay. So now we can use the same data set here in AMOS. So over here, it's the same data set. Oh, we called it a different name, huh? Okay, mine 1. Okay, whatever. And this is here, mine 1. And then the grouping here is gonna be the last here. High, high. High, high is here 1. And this is gonna be high, high, but 0. Not high, high. And then okay. I'm gonna get some little errors here, but it's okay. Model comparison, there is significance. And let's take a look at, this means when you are high, high. Okay, so now I want to see B model, low. And we are troubled understanding which relationship, sorry, I just forgot. Understanding, we did selectivity and what? Selectivity and recommendation. Because if you are highly selective, yeah, and picky, why wouldn't you have very high loading on the parasocial and purchase, right? So we have high S, high R now, and this is p-value was 0.5 something. So that is, there is a significant difference, right? Now for the low, it is 381, 318. So it's still the same dilemma. Here is 381 and here is 318. So it is kind of the same dilemma here, lower than here. Okay, but it's interesting to see. 503, okay, if you want to be very precise. Now I am looking forward to see what's going to happen if I select here the grouping to be low, low, yeah, and the grouping here to be low, low, and over here this is the high and this is the low. By the way, I maybe made a mistake. Oh my goodness, I did make a mistake. This is the high, this is the low. I made a mistake in the previous one. Matteo, made a mistake. This is high, high, right? I'm gonna put this as high, high. I'm sorry, I think I made a mistake. This is high, high, right? High, high. And now this high is 1. And this is 0. Just to make sure all is good. Or maybe I didn't. Well, in any case, it's good to always. So the low is 318 and the high is 381. Got it. It's the other way around. I knew it. The low is 318 and the high is 381, which is something that I was expecting. Do you see? But seems like these two together, you need to be both high on selectivity and high on recommendation to show all that. All right, let's investigate. So selectivity alone, high on selectivity alone, will not affect the parasocial on purchase. You need to be high on selectivity and high on recommendation so that the parasocial relationship will affect the purchase intention. If you are high on selectivity but low on recommendation, this is now, I want to see if this makes, if this gives me this result, that if you are just high on selectivity but low on recommendation, you're still gonna get a lower impact of the high on the low compared to the low. So that is now interesting thing to look into, right? So let's change the grouping here to high selectivity but low recommendation, right? Sorry, where am I going? And here, high selectivity, low recommendation. High selectivity, low recommendation. And now over here, this is the high, so I'm going to give it 1, okay? And this is the low, so I'm going to give it 0. And then I hit OK, I work it. Come on. All right, let's take a look. I want to take a look here, 181. So there is a significant difference. Perfect. Second, let's take a look at these estimates. I we get what we're looking for, which is an interesting explanation. Here's B, and this is low. Low on parasocial 431. Low is 431. You see 427, 431, even higher and higher here. And here, high, perfect, 212, 212. So you can see here that when you are low on recommendation, this even drops and this even increases. So there's a moderation effect. High S, low R. We got it. We got it. We got it. Now it is interesting to look into the other two other groups. Let's do it very quickly. Okay, we're going to change this grouping into low, high. Actually, I'm more interested into looking at low, low, but it's okay. Let me be just patient. Low, high. This is high, so it should be 1. This is low, so it should be 0. And we are ready to rock and roll. Maybe not. 587, almost there. Low selectivity, high recommendation. If you are in high recommendation zone, here's the P, this means that maybe it will pops up the relationship. So here's low, 337. Let me just put it. And high is, now the surprise, perfect, 0.44. I got it. So basically, when you are high on recommendation, it will help you pop up the, and low on selectivity, it still resembles this relationship. When it's high on selectivity, low in recommendation, it still resembles this relationship. When you are high, even though this is high selectivity, but because recommendation is in the equation now, it's factored in, that you are getting now a modified effect. Perfect. This is very interesting, isn't it? Low selectivity, low recommendation. Let's see what happens here. So let's change these groupings. And here's the group is 1. This group is 0. Comparison is 374. That's good. 374. Okay. The low reading for the parasocial on purchase is a 348. 348 compared to high is 268. Perfect. Perfect. This means that this went back again to the low selectivity. Low on selectivity. Oh, what's perfect about it? Oh, because you are low on selectivity and low on recommendation, of course, your effect here, the low effect will be higher, because this is the expected here. Now, when you are high on selectivity, high in recommendation, recommendation popped you up to here. But selectivity alone, high selectivity, is resembling this one on top. Low selectivity is resembling the one here on top. So we can see that when you have, no, wait a minute. Low selectivity but high recommendation, because we got the high recommendation, it is resembling the high recommendation and the low selectivity. Yeah, it's resembling both of them. When you're low selectivity, you have very higher impact of parasocial on purchase. So over here, the effect is higher. So that is how we compare groups, and we don't give up if we have like different groups within the variable, or different variables and different groups, and we want to find out the different groups within, like high, low on different groups, or a male who is high expression, a female who is high expression, versus male or female who are low expression. So we have here 4 different groups to investigate, and this is how we investigate it. All of these were below 0.6, so they are all significant differences, and that explains, for example, why this relationship just happened, that it doesn't make sense to us. But now it does make sense that selectivity alone with low recommendation will give us this effect. Now, what does that mean? Maybe I want to count how many individuals in the data set were responsible for high selectivity and low recommendation. So I'm gonna go here on my Excel sheet, right? And try to look into, where is the data set? And this is, for example, here. I'm gonna count how many were here, how many were belonging to each one, for example. And now I have these guys, and this is the sum. And thus, this is the percentage. Sorry, I forgot something here. Oh man, I forgot something here. As expected here. Not really. Yeah, as expected. Okay, 82% here are high selectivity. 61 are high on recommendation. High selectivity, high recommendation is half, almost. By high selectivity and low recommendation, 29. What does that mean? This means that out of 82% of all the data set have high selectivity, 53 of them, of the high selectivity, were actually high recommendation. When we studied only these 53%, it has showed us what we're looking for. High selectivity, high recommendation, the impact of the parasocial is higher on the purchase intention, which is what we thought it is. But when we took high selectivity regardless, meaning when we studied all these 3 together, not all of them together, when we looked into, to be specific, when high selectivity with low recommendation, low recommendation here gave us the same expected here, and with low selectivity, with so this is what we've been doing. So we just saying that even though actually the percentage of high selectivity is very high, I was thinking maybe the percentage of high selectivity is not that high. It is also a very good practice in general to tell us, since this is the major question in the study, it does make sense that we take these in general. This, for example, we don't need selectivity, we already got it. There's one missing, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there isn't. 5, 6. There were 6 already. Okay, it is a very good practice that we also just take these and let's just put them here and see here. The statistics. So 44% are only self-expressed. So the measure here, the measure two characteristics of millennials seems to be the following. First is open-mindedness, and almost close to it is control. These are the most prominent characteristics. Then comes selectivity and recommendation. The least, in fact, and I wasn't really in our data set, the least were the ones that I thought they were the most, which is about less than 50% almost, the data-driven and self-expression. So we can describe millennials in our data set in general to be, first of all, open-minded. This is the highest. Then we have the control. Open-mindedness, then the control. They love to control. And their recommendation, first is selectivity and then recommendation. So that is quite interesting that recommendation is the lowest, really. And deal-driven is the lowest. So this is quite an interesting finding. We focus in our marketing efforts on influencers to influence and to recommend products. But at the end of the day, we probably need to investigate how we can do control. We can't do anything with control because in our study, if you remember, control was here. Not significant difference in the groups on purchase intention. So that will leave us with the following. That will leave us focusing on open-mindedness and these two. Right? Because control, we couldn't find a significant difference between the group. And these two also are interesting, definitely. Over 40% of millennials are self-expressed and deal-driven. So that's also important. It's not that it's not important. But does open-mindedness have anything to do with, that relationship or the effect? That is another question. So taking it from here, let's order these. So this is 0.3, this is 0.3, this is 0.3, 0.3. Apparently here high selectivity is the highest over here among them all. Well, actually here, open-mindedness, but in the opposite sense. So we need to find out also the relationship between open-mindedness here and recommendation-driven, for example. That will be also a very nice, or open-mindedness. Why recommendation? Because it has to do with influencer. The influencer is there to recommend things to me, right? The influencer is there to give me a certain deal. Unfortunately, here the deal did not show any significant difference. So this is why I compared selectivity with recommendation, because this is what the influencer is all about, recommends things for us. And now selectivity and recommendation we find compelling here, finding that we gotta focus on those even high they are already high in selectivity, but they should also be high in recommendation so that I can have a higher influence at them as an influencer relationship on purchase intention. Otherwise, if they are only high in selectivity, that will give me adverse effect. Yeah, same applies here. For the brand fit to have a higher impact, well, I probably also here the recommendation is reversed. Also here the recommendation is reversed. So this kind of investigation is interesting. The second investigation we're going to do is open-mindedness on recommendation. So this is the second investigation, open-mindedness here. And recommendation. And we're going to have something like high open-mindedness, high recommendation, high open-mindedness, low recommendation, and low open-mindedness and high recommendation, and low open-mindedness and low recommendation. So once we do this and get the results here, we can have maybe better understanding. We're not sure yet. And this shows us the importance of being recommendation driven to as an audience for the influencer to actually influence and affect you. Now over here for selectivity and recommendation, since in fact open-mindedness is the same here, brand fit has higher impact. The second most important after open-mindedness is control, but it's the same, it's not giving us anything. Then comes selectivity, and then comes recommendation again. So again, over here, I'm gonna also study the same as here, but on this model. So I'm gonna study how these combinations are different, recommendation and selectivity. Yeah. And that's it. That will be it, because over here, but here's recommendation is reversed. This is what we were talking about. So if you are an open-minded individual, maybe you accept that people do different things. This is what open-mindedness is about. That when you are open-minded, you maybe you are less picky, or maybe we can say that you're less picky about whether the channel is very focused on one idea and one concept and one theme. Maybe. So I would probably say open-mindedness and maybe instead of recommendation, I would say open-mindedness here and maybe selectivity instead. All right. So that is quite interesting. Yeah. Here maybe this is not important. So if you are maybe important, no, it's important. So over here, high on selectivity and high on open-mindedness, high on selectivity, low on open-mindedness, low on selectivity, and high on open-mindedness, and over here, low on selectivity, low on open-mindedness. So you can see if open-mindedness in this sense, that if you are high on open-mindedness and even, but this is, oh, wait a minute, I'm so sorry, this is, why is it in blue? You are highly selective, so the brand fit is supposed to be highly impactful on purchase. So I'm sorry, I put it in blue, I'm sorry. I'm getting tired here. This is my third video since the morning. So this is all right. The only thing that is not all right is recommendation. When you are high on recommendation, you want to, unfortunately, the brand fit, not unfortunately, it's actually fortunate maybe. Maybe it is showing you certain routes. So basically you can assess the audience of a certain influencer by assessing their characteristics. So if a certain influencer is doing a beauty and you want to push out a car recommendation, If you know that the audience, by giving them some certain questions and questionnaires, and most of them you got questions basically measuring their characteristics here, those who are very low on recommendation, as you can see here, could tolerate that the brand could tolerate that there is a lower brand fit, because the effect of the brand fit on purchase intention for the highly recommended or recommendation driven millennials, that won't affect it, that has a lower effect than that of the low recommendation. Okay, so we probably don't need any of that. So the only thing that we need is this one, to be doing this one, and that would be it. So that is quite interesting to interpret the results, especially when it comes to the results of the recommendation, because this is what the influencer does. And since all these are just in within lines, the higher, the higher, the higher, the higher, the higher, the higher, and here is the problem. Here, no, it's not a problem, it's 0.04, and the higher, this is all fine. The only problem here is with the recommendation, and it's not a problem really. This means, you just interpret it that this means that if you high on recommendation, the brand fit doesn't necessarily matter as much if you are low on recommendation. So if you high on recommendation and you are following an influencer, then even if the influencer slips in there certain brands that is not a good fit in the into their channel, then they will still be taking or they having a high intention to purchase compared to the low recommendation here. Okay, so this is it. I'll see you soon.